Make sure I have the volume. Anyway, okay. Today I kind of wanted to address an anxiety. Yeah, anxiety. And how we've attached anxiety, first of all, I consider that a fear. And the anxiety comes from the past because it's a fear that you've had a long time, and it just pops up when certain circumstances occur that trigger it. Um, with the studies that I'm doing with Rupert Spira, I have understood more than ever and been able to put together this, what I consider experientially, um, a truth of who I truly am, who we truly are. And I actually understand my chaos. So instead of um, walking around floating in the unknown, I'm living in the knowing, in the present. And that eternal part of life has all the answers. So when I surrender to that, it is peaceful, joy, happiness, and there's no fear, jealousy, hate, not any of that. So that is where internally I have felt the experience of through this study in a more true, more open way than I did earlier in my life, because earlier in my life I accidentally, feeling so much as an entity in my own self and not this emanation from the eternal. And I felt we were all one, but I think it was a logic. It was something I knew, we were all one, but I couldn't experience it because of being so conditioned to be this entity of my own independent right. But now that life has come more transparent, anyway, I have a much better understanding of true nature, how I see things. It's not chaotic and I'm like a pinball in a pinball machine anymore. So I have direction, and I have peace, happiness, love whenever um, I'm not lost in some circumstance that triggered me, like I did this Christmas. So I had an anxiety fleet in and grab me because something happened that gave me a tremendous, overwhelming fear from my past. So I had trouble with a huge trouble with my house, and fearing that I wouldn't be able to take care of it. And I was adding fear after fear after fear. And it just took over like a tsunami. I mean, it just overwhelmed me. And I wasn't expecting that because I think I've been practicing in the little land of things popping up on a daily basis, and work and this and that and being out and doing my videos, what that brings up, and just a more calm environment. But my past has been very turbulent. So there's still a lot of overcoming to do, so to speak. Even though I don't need to do anything about it, it's something that I have to sit with when it happens. I mean, I want to, well, we can address it. The way I like to do it is when something hits me like that and overwhelms me from the past, I want to understand in general where it came from. And I know completely where it came from because I had a very um, big fear of walking the streets or not having a roof over my head or something like that experientially. That uh, is a scary place to be, especially when you're fearful, because it draws to you a lot of not so good things, um, people to rescue and use you and do all kinds of things. So, when you are lost in the chaos, you just have no direction, and it's dangerous. So the fear is definitely survivalistic, which fear is. It protects us because it lets us know that something is wrong, something is not right. And so, even though this, whatever it is, wasn't life threatening and it wasn't going to put me on the street, but the potential of that to happen would be more things going wrong. So I'm inventing, all of a sudden, half of my house is falling apart, and I'm thinking, what about the rest? And what about this and what about that? And making it bigger. Just all of a sudden, this was like instantaneous. So the thing that I can see that would bring to maybe someone who is questioning life and is in their spiritual search, and this is an area that you're contemplating, is Rupert Spira's way of the direct path. Um, by me saying this, you could bring up the question of, well, then your studies didn't fix anything because you still have that coming up. Um, that's not a good, fair way to look at it. Because it's only when you experience that love and joy from a place of it not being an emotion, but it being an absolute um, connection to the purity of everything that's behind all of this, everything that permeates everything out here. This knowing of awareness is, um, I don't like using the word God because it's so, it brings different things to different people, and it sometimes it really narrows people. And for me, I use it as a key and opener for a word, because it encompasses infinity, eternalness of uh, life. So when you get to that purity behind everything before there was a thing, um, and you connect as an activity of that, or first no thing and just silence. And I don't even want to call it silence, because it's not really, because you can still feel it. So, um, there is an activity to it, there's a vibration. Um, anyway, so being that we are that, we emanate from that. It's it's all of everything, every non-thing. it, there's no place it isn't. So once you touch that, then you don't discount that. um, oh, that doesn't work, that you can't do that, you can't sabotage yourself. Once you have the experience of that, it's impossible to sabotage yourself, which I was very good at, extremely good at, professional at that. So I wanted to bring that into view. And then I wanted to tell you, or share with you, how I am addressing everything that pops up this way. But this was such a big thing out of nowhere. Um, I wanted to bring it under the microscope into view and share that, and share doing that. So when that happened, it had me. And um, I couldn't shake it for a couple of days. I couldn't. Uh, it was like I was closed off in every direction. I was in the box of that. And I couldn't get outside of it. And I didn't want to try to get outside of it because I knew that I would get deeper into it. So I just let it be and did my daily things uncomfortably. Inside, I was very, very, very uncomfortable. So a couple of days of that, and I began to I began to know who I am come seeping through in my silence, because I would sit in silence with that uncomfortable feeling in the evening when I was done with all my chores or my things, everyday things. I would sit in the evening very uncomfortably, not knowing what to do, so I didn't do anything. I just sat with it. So after a couple of days, it began to soften, and I felt the knowing of who I am seep through because I was softening. So I knew what that was. So I was feeling and seeing in everything this transparency. And somehow I would have to say that this transparency was allowing, or I wouldn't say, well, maybe I could say the word allowing, because you restrict when you have something, anxiety pop in like that. You totally close off every door, everything. Oh God, it's I'm laughing at how horrible it is. Jeez. Anyway, so you're in this crate peeking out. And so anyway, so as things softened, I felt this it's weird because in my studies are in, it's the way, what I've learned to do and what I've done with everything that's popped in on me like that is to greet it. I had a little greet when I met it. I was like, hello, fear. I knew right away what it was. It was so overwhelming, but I couldn't shake it. So a couple of days later, as I softened, sitting in the evening, I was bringing that back, the handshake, the hello, the greeting. So I finally opened enough to the point to be with it. And the first thing I thought was, or the first thing I felt when I was being with it is affection. Because in order to not hate myself, and I've said this before, I viewed my life like a movie screen and I was the person on it, and I learned to have affection for who that was going through those things and how they happened. It made sense, and I kind of worked my way out of the chaos that way without having any studies or searches, or it's just something I did for survival, to keep loving and not. Um, but it didn't ever let me apparently um, be in charge of fear, because here it was. And so I tucked some back there, certain things, or a lot of it back there. I just was able to understand my life, and um, still sabotaging myself, but still able to get some affection back when I vision my life as a child and coming through things, and having that affection. So I did that with fear. I just took the fearful part of my life and I looked at it. So here's my understanding. I wanted to understand this child, this fear, this thing that, as I looked at it, I'm like, this thing that's there to help, actually, to keep your hand out of the flame, to um, so you don't cross the road when a car is coming, or you back up because one's coming so fast and you didn't realize it. Um, so fear is there for a reason. And once I got back to that part, I could see all the reasons. Actually, I began to have an appreciation because I looked at how I wouldn't be around if I didn't have, I would be even more lost because fear kept me out of a lot of things walking the streets, um, at times. Yeah. Fear kept me alive sometimes, running out of a home. Um, so fear was a, a protector, And I wanted to recognize that side of it. So I did that. And so then I drew it in intimately once I looked at it in my thoughts and understanding. I brought it in closer and closer into that space, that eternal space. And when I bring it so, so intimately close, it kind of dissipates into the ether, because it's like, why am I letting this thing, I mean, why, it's not even there anymore. It's not there. It's not really there. It's something that has popped up in the timeline, space and time. When you're not in eternity and you're living your life out, you're living that book, that dream, that living your life, and walking and creating your story or your art, your just being as full as you're able at the time. But you start out so restrictive. It's such a restrictive crate. And then as that crate opens up, we're able to get that intimate and unveil source of being. So then when we go out into the world, everything does become more transparent, because it's made from this eternal purity. I don't know what else to call it. Love, beauty, whatever you want to call it, but it's pure. It's in its state of I-ness. It just is, and it's just absolutely, and it's the one thing that's eternal. And so when I return to that source, I shouldn't say return and come out. I mean, it's always there. It's our awareness and our attention goes elsewhere, and we completely forget who we are. We completely forget who we are. So I use this a lot about the prodigal son, and not that I don't have a religion, but I love all these stories and people that have come through the world to share this same understanding in their different ways and stories. And Rupert just happened to bring his story that meshed with the story that I was putting together. So and I had so many holes in it, but it fit with my story of truth that connected me with truth. There's all different ways of connecting with truth. They all go to the same place. But finding the verbalization that'll connect the understanding to that eternal, unperturbable, undeniable, that eternal understanding, that eternal part of everything and nothing. Maybe that'll work for now. Um, as Rupert always says, there are no words that say it like it truly is, because our words are designed to speak about objects, and we're talking about um, unseens here. Um, my pretty much goal in life has been to bring the unseen forward, because I've always felt like the deepest part of the unseen is love and purity, but I didn't know how to put all that together. It seemed like you know, people laugh at you for saying stuff like that. Oh, yeah, gonna love it all away. Anyway, so I retreated every time I said anything silly to everybody else, because the laughter and the being made fun of would make me retreat. And here I am. I'm still, uh, only this time, Rupert's helped me with verbalization and also the understanding of it, getting to the truth itself with that verbalization and that understanding keeps me connected to who I truly am and that eternal place, so that as I walk through life, I don't have to be fearful, because if I'm coming from that source place, which we are, but if we're not interfering with that with our restricted, constricted place, then we're not interfering with how we do life, walk life. Shouldn't say do, because it's not like a do, it's like a be. How we be. Yeah. So that to me is what these videos do for me, is to help me verbalize these things in a better way without someone else, or not to use so many words from somebody else, because you can screw up words when you're repeating them from somebody else, and lo and hold, you just want to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mess up what you said. You don't need to do that. You need to find your own words to say the same thing. And that's what I'm doing here. Finding my own words to say the same thing. But it's experiential. So I'm relating to my own experience and not Rupert's. And that's a good thing that he does. He makes sure you do that. He doesn't give you answers. He evokes them from you like artists, and he uses that word evoke. I like it. So I have picked up words that are helpful, but I don't want to quote his words as if, they're mine, or I don't want to quote his words and screw them up. whatever. So I'm just sharing in the raw. You've got a live student going through the process of opening. People call it transformation. I don't know that I do call it that. That word I'm not attached to, but um, because that truth in yourself, that eternal part, isn't a part. It's a whole. It's everything. It's all. It's undividable. So those words are hard to find. So that's what you come up against a lot is undefinable, unseen, and words. So transformation would mean you're going from one thing and turning into another. And it may seem that way, but you're not really doing that. All you're doing is getting to know your true nature that's always there. It's always there. We just veil it from our constricted, restricted um, thoughts, feelings, and perceptions that are doing their thing without knowing who we truly are. And the more we think, feel, and respond and perceive, we perceive from that place, from that limited view of leaving out who we truly are. And so it's very shallow. So that's where all the suffering comes from, because it's so shallow. We're not thinking through, we're not going back far enough. All we do is go back and experience in history of more problems, and we look at and we label something, that's where that came from, and we don't go back before any of that. We don't go back to the beginning of everything that was. And of course, people don't, that's another thing. People object to that because they say, well, how can we know what's behind all that? That's where Rupert helps as well. Because you absolutely do know that when you go back into your very experience of awareness, you can actually go back to that place. Thus, that's why all the meditators and all those different ways of searching from the inside out have been experienced in many people, many ways. And that's the beauty of it, because we are now being able to see things that we didn't see before, from being distracted from all the material distractions and objects. It doesn't mean that they're not, um, beautiful objective creations or whatever, or they're not, they're in this stream, and it's um, they're great. It's all a part of, because we are immediately as humans on a timeline, and so we play this out in a timeline, and so we have these objects to do with what we want to do with. So I would think when we know who we truly are, We're creating beautiful creations, and we're creating love. Everything from care and love, from that place, from that care and that love. And so we wouldn't treat people the way we do, and we wouldn't treat animals the way we do, and we wouldn't treat plants the way we do, because we would all know source and what that is. And it just is a way of viewing that goes beyond our body. And that's where we have trouble going, because we're so distrustful of our own experience. We say, I don't trust my experience because it told me this is bad or that's good, and I did it anyway and it was bad. You know, we take the simplicity of superficial understanding and we don't go beyond that. It's like, keep it simple. What's that? Keep it simple, stupid. And it is simple. It is simple. But we've got to see the simplicity of it in a deeper way. So, um, it's super simple as far as source goes. Super simple. But finding our way back there is not looking at it from the surface. We've got to sink back. I like that word. Rupert uses that word, sinking back, and I love that. There was a movie on Mary Magdalene, and it was really neat because in the beginning of it, she's sinking into the ocean. It's just beautiful. She's just sinking down into the ocean, down and down, and just sinking into source. It's kind of a relationship that I make with that because it was so beautiful. So this sinking into that purity of before everything is, before 10,000 things. So we're sinking and sinking. And that's what I had to do with the fear, because the fear came in with a club as I walked around the corner and hit me on the head. And I got delirious. And I was like, whatever you want, I'll do. Just don't hit me again. So sinking underneath that was hard because I was at its mercy. It brought up, that's when the past and future come in, and you're not in the now anymore. Because when you're near, oh, Rupert puts this really good too. When you're in the now, the here is time. No, the now is time. The here is space. But anyway, when you have this meeting of the horizontal and the vertical, your linear self and your dimensional being, your depth. So your actions on the planet and your depth of being. When you're there, you're in eternity without the past and the future, and your being here now here now, whatever you're being, you're just being right now. And it's when the past and the future invade the now from the timeline, since we have this timeline as a human, so we can play this out. Because anyway, I won't get into that part, but When we bring the past and future into the now, we pile things on top of our heads. And it really creates trouble. Uh, yeah. So the purity of eternity, the purity of the essence of who we truly are, doesn't do that. It's spacious and there's a freedom that comes from what our constrictive self thinks it is. Means I can do anything I want and you can't stop me and don't, invade my freedom. We all love freedom. But source, when we're in that eternal space, it is freedom. That's true freedom. So it's freedom you don't have to fight for. But in our restricted selves, it's like we fight for our freedom. And it's actually because we want to return to source. We want to know source. We're missing something. We're missing a part of our being, of who we are, knowing who we are. We're missing that part. So, with all of that being said about my little fear adventure, I think I will close now for this Sunday and be back soon with another episode of With Integrate. Um, so, see you then. Bye, everyone, and no one.